Okay, we are now live.
All right, thank you. So Senate Appropriations back, and we are taking up S48, and we have with us Senator Hardy to run through the bill with us, and it must have a spending implication because it has been referred to us. So welcome, Senator Hardy.
Thank you, Senator Kitchell. Thanks for having me to Appropriations. First time this year. It's nice to see you all. So S48 is a bill that we took up last year, actually, and I believe we passed it in the Senate just before we left for COVID, and it would enter the state into a nurse licensure compact. There are 34 other states already in this compact, so it's kind of, we felt like it was time for us to do it. The appropriate, I'm assuming you don't want me to go through the whole bill, but
no.
Okay.
We would focus. Obviously, we passed. I think I'm a sponsor, even.
You are, yeah.
No. At this point, because of we have to move all these bills out. We'd like to focus on the sections that relate to spending.
Okay, so there are some impacts on fees, which the Finance Committee has already looked at. The only thing that I can figure out that's an appropriation related thing at this point is there's a $6,000 annual fee to be part of the nurse compact. And the Office of Professional Regulation has said that they are able to absorb that in their budget. So that you'll see in the fiscal note that the JFO did. There's not even a part of the bill that references that. It's just part of the compact that the state shall pay the registration fee, but there's nothing appropriated for it.
Okay, and nothing needs to be appropriated since the Secretary OPR can accommodate the fee.
Yes, we had testimony, a lot of testimony from Lauren Hibbert in both the Health and Welfare and Finance Committee, and they are fine with absorbing it. And in fact, the nurse licensure compact has a grant program that helps states with the funding that might be necessary for technical changes to their databases and stuff that that the state plans to apply for. A small, I think it's $20,000 that would actually pay the first year of the licensure fee. So in a couple of years, there may be larger implications because of the fee changes that we'll see down the road, but they would not impact FY22.
Okay. Stephanie, did you find anything other than what has been referenced that we would relate to spending?
No, I mean, it does have the fee impact piece that's mentioned in the fiscal note, but that was on, on the finance side of the world.
So Senator Hardy got it morning and afternoon then.
That's right.
All right, so it sounds like what it does have a spending implication, but it does not require an appropriation. So we did pass it before, and it's a way of trying to address our nursing shortage and to make greater in this very mobile world allow people to move across state lines and not have to and to have their license respected. So I have a motion from Senator Starr to move the bill favorably. Second from Senator Westman. Any other discussion? If not, I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll. And you're muted, Mr. Clerk.
Okay. Senator Ballant.
I think she's not available right now.
Okay. Senator Baruth, yes. Senator Nitka.
Yes.
Senator Sears.
He's also muted.
Oh, what is the question?
It's yes.
How old are you?
To move the bill favorably, it calls for a fee that has to be paid, but the Office of Professional Regulation doesn't need money. It can pay it out of its operating budget. So
I'm all for that.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
So Senator Sears votes yes.
Senator Starr.
Yes.
Senator
wait a minute.
Whoop.
I think we have.
Madam Chair,
I don't
may I
know.
interrupt very briefly?
We are in the middle of a vote, I would remind you.
Yes, I am aware. I just wanted to make sure that the committee is voting on the bill as amended by Senate Health and Welfare. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to make
Mhm.
sure that was clear. Thank you. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Okay. Yes, we're and I'm assuming that that's what the vote was in finance as well.
Yes, it
Okay.
was.
Okay, so we'll keep going with the roll.
Okay, Senator Westman,
Yes.
Senator Kitchell.
Yes,
And would you like to hold the vote open for the pro
I
tem?
will. Mhm,
Okay.
I will. Okay,
Thank you, everybody.
thank you. And let's see, OPR, that, who has Secretary of State? Is that you?
That's
Bobby.
me.
All right,
Yeah.
Bobby's on it.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for having me.
All
Bye-bye.
right, thank you. So Chrissy, our next bill and our next witness would be,
We are going to S79 and Senator Clarkson and David Hall will be on their way.
okay. And then we have, well, after that,
Then we go on to S124, an act relating to miscellaneous utility subjects with Senator McCormick.
mhm,
Finally, we end up with promoting housing choice and opportunity in smart growth areas with Senator Ballard leading the discussion.
okay. So we have two more after S79.
That's correct.
And then the question is, do you want to go back to S100?
Yeah. If we can, because that would, if we could get that wrapped up today.
And I apologize, I got distracted. Can you tell me who the reporter on S48 will be?
Senator
Me.
Starr.
Senator Starr,
Thank you.
Star of Troy,
Yes,
Star
Star Troy.
I had a great idea
Earl of Eden.
back in the day that Bobby could, we determined that there was this hole in the production capabilities of Vermont. Remember, Bobby, there was a need for a company that could freeze local vegetables to get them down to Boston. And I thought Bobby should start a company called North Star, spelled STARR, North Star Refrigeration. It would have made $1 billion, Bob.
Yeah, well, we can still do that. We don't have a quick freeze yet, Phil.
I would like to put in just sweat equity, but be a partner.
Well, probably that's what we would both put in. We could get the money
Senator
from
Sears, thank you for
somebody.
your email. Yep. Okay, so 79, that has an appropriation for a housing improvement. So that's going to need an amendment because we're not appropriating money for that outside the budget, I believe.
There's a lot of employees.
What?
That's a lot of employees.
You mean positions?
Yeah, 5.
Okay.
That is a lot.
It has a few other appropriations besides the 3 million for the.
Oh, it sounds like
So
we've already started.
No, we haven't started. We're just just discussing what is in the bill and what moves forward and what we remove as part of the overall 22 budget deliberations. So positions usually, unless it's a very specific time period or funding stream or whatever. So so that's why we're just talking about that. So were we waiting for David? Is he here?
He is not in the room yet.
Before David gets here, I have to say, this is really a treat to just see you guys. Normally, when I come into Appropes, there are 88 people and they're all over the place and they're sitting everywhere conceivable. And there might be the only thing I'm missing is the leftover trifle bowl. But it's so nice to just see you, which is not, this is such an unusual Appropes experience. Just saying.
But we're an unusual group of people too.
You are. We are discussing employee classification in GovOps, and we're talking about how diverse our workforce is. And yes, you are representative of how diverse our Senate is.
Oh. So do you
want me
Senator
to just
Clarkson,
start?
Do you
I'm happy
want to
start.
get started on?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
I can just give you sort of the high level overview, and I've got we've all of you except Becca and Phil have heard about this project for a long time, and we as you know passed it last. But this year S79 really is our bill which addresses improving health and safety in our rental housing. We put together the Rental Housing Advisory Board several years ago, who've been really pushing us to get a consistent and equitable way in which we address health and safety in our rental housing. And it really creates equity in inspections and code enforcement for our rental units across the state.
This is where you've got the $35 registration fee.
Well, yes, that is exactly, that's what it pays for. This does not replace town health officers. Right now, town health officers do it, and they do it in a very different fashion all over the state. And some towns, 6 towns, cities have their own health and safety departments. They have their own registries. They have their own fees. This bill, I'm just trying to get to the objective. The objective of this bill really is to create an equitable, fair, and consistent way in which our 80,000 plus rental units across the state are inspected and have their code enforcement reviewed. So I just wanted to sort of put that big picture out there. It does 3 things, this bill. It moves the responsibility for the enforcement of the rental housing health code from the municipalities to the Department of Fire Safety for bunches of reasons, which I can get back to. And that's where the 5 new full-time inspectors are. Those are the 5 new positions. It also establishes a registry of long and short-term rentals, rental housing units. And that is where the $35 fee, which has been passed out of finance, is. And that is where the 1.5 full-time employees are created for in the Department of Housing and Community Development to build the registry and to maintain it and to oversee it and do the work of it. And because there's all sorts of work to do on that. And then then we have, in addition to complement this work, we are codifying in this bill the Vermont Housing Investment Program, which we had the ability with our CRF money to actually run a pilot and see what the pluses and minuses were of it. But this is our program where we, instead of building new rental units, this is making very efficient use of bringing back online units that are disused, that are vacant, they're blighted, they're not up to code enforcement. And this is bringing existing housing stock back online for very little money, which is really the exciting thing about this program. And we had over $7 million in that program of last year with, and we did incredibly well. And anyway, so that's the third thing this bill is trying to do, codify that. And that's the one where we're hoping to bring back all these units back online. The appropriations that we're talking about in this bill are for the rental registry and the positions. It's got a $400,000 one-time money ask, which is needed in order to start the registry, get it begun, and bring on and begin the transition of the move from the to the Division of Fire Safety. And that's one-time money ask, and as is the $3 million for the VHIP. But the $35 per unit fee is needed to fund the remainder of the first year. So the hope is that the $400,000 would cover in one-time money, the building of the registry and bringing over enough people to make that happen. And then in January, the fee would kick in, the registry would be launched in November, December. The fees would start kicking in and we'd have half a year of the fees to pay for the full-time employees. This system is designed to pay for itself, as you see in Burlington or Brattleboro or any of the other towns that have a rental registry in place. Those fees cover the cost of the registry itself. And so the budgets for this year were built, for the first year, were built at a 40% participation rate. We know we're not going to get everybody on board paying right away. So it's budgeted at 40% and goes to 60% in the fourth year. And the annual costs start at about $975,000 and go up. Dan's figures, I sent you Dan Dickerson from JFO's figures, which are slightly different, but they're all in the same ballpark as the Rental Housing Advisory Board's figures. And then, of course, the one-time money is requested for the VHIP program. That's also a one-time expenditure for 22, and it's that is and the ongoing work of funding it will, we hope, be covered by excess revenues in the rental registry fees. So that's sort of a big, broad overview of the money.
Okay. So yes,
does that
Senator
help?
Starr. Mhm.
Yeah, Allison, how much money is that projected to raise?
The total revenues for the first year, and remember, it's only half a year, are about 4.2 million in the first year, which is about the estimated rental housing registration fees will bring in about 840,000. Dan is guesstimating
For first year?
For the first year, for that half year.
Didn't you say there were 80,000 units?
There are, yes, but we're only budgeting it at 40% for the first year as we sort of slowly educate. It's going to be a big piece of outreach and education, which is why the Department of Housing and Community Development needs a person and a half. They have, as you probably know, you guys know where all the bodies are. They have a very modest staff.
But I don't have a calculator, but if you have,
some could, well, Bobby, maybe part of that calculation is, are you factoring out the units that are already paying a fee and where there's something in place? So the units in Burlington and Brattleboro are subtracted from that universe.
Right. We're basing it on 55,000 units, I believe.
well, if you,
55 when you're totally enrolled.
We're basing it on 40% of 55,000 units. So these 6 towns we've taken out in the budgeting process. We've taken out the 6 towns that have registries and charge already registry fees. The fees in those towns range from $110 a unit in Burlington to Brattleboro, where they're a lot less, to St. Johnsbury has one. And I have those.
All right. So basically the calculation is after you take out the units are already covered and because of the municipality has it in place, it's a universe of 55,000. The first year anticipating 40% of the 55,000 would come online, half a year at $35.
Right.
Yeah, but you multiply that out, Jane, and it's nowhere near the number that Allison told us it was going to be.
Well, Dan has done that work, and so I have,
Do you have the fiscal note, Bobby?
No,
Okay.
but I, I can multiply.
Well, it might, I'm just saying, maybe there are other variables here that assumptions that were factored in. I don't know. Senator Sears, you're
I don't have
talking?
I don't have the fiscal note either. Has that been posted or?
It's posted. It is posted, and it was also included in your packet today. It was probably mixed in with a lot of bills as well, but I can pull it up on the screen if you prefer.
You're muted, Senator Sears.
Very hard time keeping track of everything. Okay, so it's on, I'm not sure where it is. I've got S79 at 2:00 with Senator Michael Sorokin, but is it on that email?
No, but would you like me to pull it up on the screen? Would that be easiest for everybody?
Yes.
I think we're
Yes.
all kind of,
Yeah.
I've had about 75 emails. I was gone to take my wife to get a shot, and in that time seems like 75 emails. It's just,
Okay.
it's just unbelievable.
Okay.
so
It's
second page,
Page 2 has the chart. There you go.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay.
and so Dan has added, and Dan could probably clarify this more fully, but we're estimating, as you'll see, that about 21,000 rental units already belong to these other cities. So we're looking at 55,000 rental units are assumed eligible for inclusion in the registry. And Dan has added an additional 5,000 short-term rental units. There's a universe of 6,000 to 8,000 short-term rental units. It's not fully clear yet. And one of the pluses of having a registry is we'll be clearer on this in a year or two.
Does that mean Senator Westman's got to register?
Yeah.
Yes, I hope.
It does, and I'm not sure I want to vote on this bill.
Each unit.
All of us own rental property. None of us
I
can
don't.
vote.
I don't. I don't.
I do.
I do.
I do.
So we gotta recuse
Remember the article about it 2 years ago?
What's the definition of short term? That's what
It is less than 30 days and more than 14 times a year. I believe that's right.
okay. Well, so if a legislator is renting property in Montpelier for the session, is that counted?
Kathleen.
Is that a long-term rental now?
Yes, it's longer than 30 days.
So that is part of the registry then. Somebody renting out their condo to the legislators
Either
are going to
way,
be on this registry. And
if they rent their house for,
well,
yes, I mean, it'll be
they'll
both.
be on the I'm just
and
trying to
for-
understand who's on the registry and who's not. So I would imagine generally people renting their house during the winter time while they're in Florida would not see themselves as rentals, but now their house is going to be inspected and they're going to have to go through all of the
They go through nothing. They don't have to go through anything. It's complaint driven. Let's say you and Brian rented a dump and it had code violations. It's up to you to complain. So it's a complaint driven system. It does. We do not have enough money in this state to have all those units be inspected even on an every other year basis.
Well, then what do the 5 new positions do?
But it's going to drive rental cost up because somebody has to pay the bill.
Yeah, they'll just get incorporated in the rent, just like if
Yeah.
your water sewer goes up, I'm sure.
But rental people that rent can't afford to pay their rent as it is.
Well, that isn't the case most parts of the year, and when we're not in a pandemic. I mean, most people do pay their rent or they wouldn't be in there. But it is not. So it's a complaint driven system, and this provides really equity of inspection, because right now we all know health officers who are not particularly well trained to do housing inspections. This leaves them still to do stuff with dog bites and blue-green algae and all sorts of other things that health officers do around in our communities.
If I could walk through again.
Right.
you're asking for 5 inspectors that would serve the entire state based
Correct.
on responding to complaints that that generally they're fairly serious violations that
Yep.
would need to come. Then, and that would be to fire safety.
Correct.
Mike,
And
That-
then to Mike DeRushi's shop.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
And then 2.5 positions to ACCD
No,
or one
one and a half.
one and a
position
half.
To ACCD in the Department of Housing and Community Development, where this registry will be housed.
Okay. So, so the fees would be sufficient to fund the 6.5 full-time positions.
Correct. And to maintain the registry and to continue the outreach and education of landlords.
Okay. And what is needed here is the money. I'm just trying to think of the sequencing. Obviously, you don't put inspectors in line until you've got the system and you know who's registered. So what you need is the 400,000 one time to get
Correct.
the registry started, and
Correct.
then and the money collected, and then and
And
that would be in housing and community development.
Right.
That would occur. And then once the fees come in and properties get registered, the inspectors would be hired incrementally, I would assume, as the number of registrations increases.
Yes.
Is that a correct?
That is my understanding, and I am not a professional in this area, but that's my understanding.
All right.
And that my question for you is, I've been thinking about this. I know these fees would go into the general fund. Do we need to create a rental registry fund, a special fund that would collect those fees, or do we not need to worry about that at this point?
Well, I think we'll have to ask Stephanie about the mechanics of this. The first is, obviously, we've got to make a decision about a one-time
Right. And then
upfront.
the
And
other
so,
one- the other,
Stephanie, the fees that would be paid by properties when they meet the registration requirements should flow to a special fund?
They can. It's
Yeah,
probably, given the size and the number, it's probably better to do it to a special fund than the general fund.
That's what I'm thinking. It also helps us determine the extent to which the funds are there to support.
Yeah.
yeah, it occurred to me as I was looking at all this, Stephanie, that might be, in fact, a good idea.
Okay.
how do we justify, have Michael or somebody at fire and safety come in with their budget to justify appropriating new money in 2 years for him, or how do we do the budget?
Well, the fees are designed to support the expenditures.
Right.
So,
It not in the startup though, or
Yeah,
Only in the
That-
second.
it is
That-
it is anticipated that part of the 400,000, I believe, will help with some of the transition.
Okay.
It will begin the transition of
Yeah.
bringing on 1 or 2 people. I mean, I don't anticipate they're bringing on too many people until we have a registry that's generating fees, because they really are clear on the fact that the fees are paying for the inspectors.
well, we'll have to figure that out. We've got 2 things here. 100,000, 400,000, which is the upfront cost to build a registry and to start the process. And then the mechanism to collect the fees. And then sequentially, once the properties are registered and the fees are generated, I would assume we're not bringing on 5 full-time inspectors from day one. It would be over a period of time as the number of properties are registered. And so the first question, first of all, ongoing base spending for VHIP, we're going to remove that because that's a base expenditure that we have to decide in the budget. I don't know if we have $1 million.
Well, and I don't think they're actually asking for that. They are, I'm not sure that this bill does not ask for that. And that is an assumed, that's a projection. They're asking for a 3 million one-time money to get to do this project now. Their hope is that there will be excess fees down the line for that will go in and finance the continuation of these rehabilitation projects.
3 million.
You're asking to capitalize a fund?
Yeah, I don't understand.
No, it's a program of grants and deferred loans to assist landlords and homeowners to renovate substandard living. It's a $3 million program.
We've been funding it, but we've been funding it with one-time money as we have it available. I thought you wanted to move it into an ongoing base appropriation. And if that's the case, then that gets pulled out and has to compete with all the other base requests.
Right.
Now, maybe in the course of looking at the money coming in from the federal sources, we can continue to do what we've done in the past and appropriate some for VHIP for construction. But to build, this gets back to Randy's question about what's in here and what's building the base. So I think we need to be clear that anything that builds a base right now is not, we on general fund, we're not making those decisions.
But this request in this bill does not anticipate the ongoing costs that we will deal with in the future. It deals with a $3 million one-time program, one-time granted program for this year. We had used, as you know, 7.6 in CRF money to implement this very successful pilot. And we will have completed about 250 units, which is great.
Okay, what I'm trying to sort out is the 3 million, is it to continue and request federal dollars to do what we've done, only using ARP money rather than CRF? And Stephanie, have you taken a look, or is Dan there? I thought that there was a desire to make this an ongoing program with an ongoing funding source.
It is a desire to make it an ongoing program, but in this bill, it only has one-time money expenditure of 3 million. And the hope long-term is that the excess from the fees from the registry will pay for the continued work in VHIP.
Boy, in addition to funding the registry and in addition to funding 6.5 positions.
Yeah. Yeah, because if you look at Dan's projections, the revenue projections are hopefully.
He does show a positive balance in the two.
I'm telling you though, those numbers are wrong. Any one of you just take $35 and multiply it by 80,000. And it's pretty simple. Just take 8 times 35 and then add the zeros and you come up with 2.8 million. You don't come up with $7-8 million or whatever it is Allison come up with.
Right. I'm getting some clarification here that the 21,000 units, remember, Bobby, are in other towns and are not part. So we're looking at a universe of 55,000 units plus.
That makes it even less money.
That even makes it worse.
Can I
Senator Westman.
So I really need to get Dan in here, because what I see is a general fund appropriation, 2 different places, one of 3.9 million, one on his chart of 3.4 million. He shows in FY22, 840,000 coming in from the registry fees.
Right.
And he spent, so a total of 4.2 million going for this function, for 4.240, and the total spending of 3.945. So I can't make the breakdown in this unless somebody walks me through it. So it would be helpful for me if Dan could do that.
Well, I
'Cause-
can
'cause
even
if we're-
start, I can even start the other way.
Yeah.
And that is, I know that this has been a priority for some housing people for a number of years. We could start with the 400,000 that would be upfront. And
Right.
then nothing gets funded. In other words, those positions only be brought online as for inspectors as the revenues are generated at a sufficient level to fund the positions.
The positions, you know, the first year is half a year. Dan has budgeted 840,000. The fees for the first year are the one-time money for
But
VHIP.
Allison, if you bring on 3 inspectors immediately first time, you don't have the revenues. You've got all the upfront costs immediately, but the $35 you're going to collect over 6 months. So I'm trying to align your revenues with your expenditures. That's what I'm trying to do. The housing money to do VHIP, I'm setting aside because that's going to take a separate appropriation. Right now it's written as though it's general fund. There's no general fund unless we made a decision, which we can in the big budget, of funding it another year, either using the federal dollars coming in, or if we used general fund one time, but until, and we could have language that if at some point the registry generates revenue so robust, then anything over and above the cost of maintaining it would be available for these home repairs.
The home repairs, I mean, the 3 million in one-time cost is to pay the homeowners the grants to do these programs right now, to bring on housing right now. The ongoing money we will deal with in the future. It would be VHIP would not be funded at the complete 3 million appropriation ongoing. The program would shrink if it relied on the registry alone, but there's only this one-time ask in S79. I know you're thinking ongoing, but we're really asking for 1 year in this for the VHIP. Sorry, I'm confused.
But a lot of those decisions around either general fund or the rescue plan are being made in the context of the 22 budget. Some are base, some are ongoing. A lot of that federal money needs to go for just time limited because it's not ongoing. We can consider that request the same as it was done in the past, and you're putting forward 3 million. I am saying we would have to take that out at this time, put it in the big bill if we want to fund it. In the meantime, this bill, we would have to get this system in place. We would have to commit now 400,000 off our general fund list of one-time money to get the registry and the staff at ACCD to put this in place. We can have language that would then authorize Mike DeRushy's shop to hire staff that can be supported by the revenues as they grow over time. Because we can't hire 5 from the get-go because we won't have 840, to pay the salaries immediately, nor would we have the houses all registered. So I need to separate out the desire to do more home repairs now. I'm not saying that it won't happen, from what we're putting in place with ongoing responsibilities, knowing that in this case, the calculus is such that the fees would underwrite the cost. And otherwise, this is not a general fund demand.
Right.
And Stephanie, have you understand what I'm talking about, I imagine.
So the question I would have, you're separating out the two things, the registry and the investment.
Yeah.
And you want to take, the bill does set up in statute the investment program, right?
It does right now, but I just
Yeah.
pulled the whole thing out.
So you would take both the appropriation and the program out.
Well, but if we want to put in language now that any additional money generated by the fees over and above the expenses, operational expenses, would be available to support that function, we could do it as contingent funding, so to speak. In other words, we could create the program and say it will get funded to the extent to which there are revenues in excess of meeting the costs of the registry.
Right, and that may be one thing, but the VHIP program is in this bill, only in this bill is anticipating a $3 million one-time general fund expense.
Well, you're going to have to hold your anticipation till next month, Senator Clarkson.
I know, but what I'm trying to say is they have not really addressed in this bill ongoing funding. Dan Dickerson has just joined us to help me go through this, because he is pretty clear on the stakeholders.
Okay. All right. So Dan, let me ask a question. When this registry program gets mature, year 2, or whenever people know they've got to register, will it generate revenues sufficient to meet the cost of the registry and the 5 inspectors, and anything above that would be available to go to home improvements?
Yes, the registry will support all of those positions. And, the bill, I don't think explicitly states that any excess would go to the improvement program, but you could certainly, direct that in the language.
Okay.
Right.
All
But
right.
remember, it's designed to, the fees are designed to cover the 6.5 positions, which is 1.5 in ACCD.
We got that.
ACCD, and the 5 in Division of Fire Safety.
What I'm saying is that first dollar goes to support the staff and the inspection.
Right. Exactly.
If there's anything above it, say some year, I don't know, once we get going, there is ongoing revenue in excess of those operation expenses, say $500,000. If the desire, or maybe this isn't your desire, I don't know, maybe I'm writing the script for you, but anything in excess would be available to assist with the improvement of unused rental units under that VHIP concept to support those repairs. So it would be an ongoing revenue.
Yes. And Sarah Carpenter's happy to clarify anything I have failed to clarify.
No, I think we've got, I've got it. Senator Starr.
You've got it. I think you've got it. 400. I mean, you guys have got all this. That's $400,000 to get it up and going, and to fund the positions to get it up and going, the ones that are essential to do that.
Okay.
We kick the registry in. We start raising the revenue as of January when it's launched. We raise the revenue for all the positions, the 6.5 positions. Anything in excess, seem to be developing language, could be directed to fund the VHIP program.
And you'd want to do this in the construct of a special fund.
Yes.
Yeah, I would think that would make sense.
And then you would strip out the $3 million one-time appropriation.
Mm-hmm.
That would be addressed in the budget context.
That's right.
And decide if there's federal fund available for it, or if it can fit into the general fund one time when the big bill is done. So what it sounds like for amendments is you want to create the special fund, because the bill does not create a special fund. who would be the controller of the special fund, ACCD or fire safety?
I think ACC, well, it's a good question. I would ask the advocates and see if I get an answer from them.
No, I think we need to decide which entity in government should get the money. I think that we could have ACCD. Well, let me ask, did the committee discuss who would collect the fees?
No, it occurred to me as I've been working on this bill that we need to have a place for them to go. We did not discuss that. And I don't know if finance did either. But I'm getting an answer from Sarah Carpenter right this second.
In the current language, DHCD does collect the fees, but the fees are just they're not going anywhere. So I assume they go to the general fund.
Okay, great.
Well, no. All right. So we'll change that.
with
All right.
DHCD.
So now we know ACCD operates a registry and they collect the fees. We would put them in the special fund, and out of that, they would fund their positions. And then we can put in language that anything in excess would go for home improvements. Stephanie understands what I'm.
Yeah, you need to make sure that the Department of Fire Safety knows that they can budget out of that special fund for their positions also.
That's right.
Right. So DHCD collects, DHCD distributes. Division of Fire Safety gets their money from them.
All right. Committee, Senator Westman. You're muted.
So Dan, your take-up rate is 40% in the first year, 50 in the second year. Can you talk a little bit about how you came up with those numbers? Because you top out at 1.2 million. And if I'm at 40% of the rentals contributing the first year, why wouldn't it be above 1. I don't get your numbers.
Sure. So I didn't generate most of this. I reviewed some work that I think DHCD had done in partnership with some of the advocates. So I basically reviewed what they had done. I made a few little tweaks and went with that. And so essentially what they said was 40% in the first year, although they said that the second year would also be at 40%. And that was one area where I thought, given that we're providing them the staff to communicate and do the outreach, we would hope that by year 2, they would get a few more of those folks on board. And so I increased the take up percentage to 50. And then by 24, which is where I ended my estimates, they would be at 60%. I think, and they thought as well that, probably they would top out around 80%, in the out years, but I only went so far as year 3, which I estimated to be 60%.
And what happens if somebody doesn't register? That's probably a question for Allison.
Yeah, that would be a better question for her, or for maybe DHCD. I think they'd worked on some of the mechanics.
Yeah, it's a good question. They lose out on getting educated about what the opportunities are for landlords. They would have missed out on the rental assistance program. They would have missed out on a bunch.
I don't think Senator Westman will utilize any of those services.
Well, no. He might have. They would miss. They'd miss out on the opportunity to have a really fair, educated, well-trained inspection when their renter complains about their apartment. I think that's. I think the plus of this is.
I guess the big question is there enforcement, and who would have enforcement responsibilities? I think that's the heart of the question.
The Division of Fire Safety would have enforcement responsibilities
to pay the fee. To pay the fee.
That is the enforcement.
Well,
I see, to collect the fee. I don't have it. I don't have it. That's a good question. We can ask that question. I do not have that answer to that question. We will hope there is compliance, and let's see, there is an answer here.
Is there a penalty for not registering?
The tax department already requires that landlords file, so we certainly have that piece. But I do not, we did
Is there
not.
a penalty? Is there a penalty for not registering?
No,
No.
not that I know.
Yes, there is. I'm looking at the language right now. An owner of rental housing who fails to register pursuant to this
Sorry.
section shall pay a late registration fee of $150. And
It'll
would
be at
subject
what,
to administrative
150?
penalties.
What did you say, 150 per unit?
It just says 150, and then there are administrative penalties not to exceed 5,000 for each violation. That's the extent of what it says.
I apologize.
Senator Starr, you're muted though.
I did.
Dan, I think, did you say how much money you were raising?
Yes.
Wasn't it 1.2?
By FY24, I estimated that registrations would bring in about 1.25 million.
So we're gonna have 6.5 employees, 5 inspectors, and 1.5 doing, taking days off or doing whatever it is they are supposed to be doing. So how are we gonna spend that kind of money to cover the cost for 6.5 employees and justify that kind of raising that much money to cover the expense for 6.5 people?
Well, that's where we get into, after that expense is covered, then it would generate money to go into the rental improvement program.
So it's a 50-50 deal. Then say if you got 6.5 people, you spend $100,000 a piece on them, which is probably more than it would cost, but say that's 65,000, right? 650,000.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to raise 1.2 million. So it's a 50-50 deal. So I'm going to give my $35 to get the inspector to come, but half of that's going to go to fix somebody else's dumpy apartment up.
Well, conceivably.
Well, I think I'll take care of my own, and the other guy will have to fend for himself. Because I already pay my money to fix mine up. And you know what that costs, because you just did it.
Right.
I'm working on it. Every Thursday afternoon, I have 2 workmen here with their invoice. Senator Sears.
I'm still trying to figure out adding 5 new employees to fire safety. Of all the things that we do in state government, I have found so difficult to add positions on the current system. I don't understand how the administration has said this is fine. I really don't. I mean, I've been trying to get positions for various places. So I'm surprised that they're going along with this.
Well, who said they
Probably
were?
because there's a revenue to support the cost.
Well, but we're taking a job that's been done by the municipalities, right?
Right, but not well.
That's your opinion. I think some people would say some municipalities have done well and some of them haven't. Yeah. But we are taking something that's been done by municipalities. But if you have, will Burlington and Brattleboro have to join in this now?
No, those are the 21,000.
Well, why?
Not
Well,
included.
why? So if you have to meet a certain standard, so I don't understand this.
Well, because they're already paying for the service and they're already subject to inspection.
So why wouldn't, if I'm in Brattleboro or Burlington, why wouldn't I want to jump into the state system?
Right.
Let the state pay for it.
Well, because they already have very robust inspection and registry systems in those towns. They're working. Johnsbury's is as well.
So why would they want to continue it? I think is Senator
Right, that's
Sears'
what I'm
question.
asking. Why would the town continue it state's taken over one more responsibility. I would assume that if I'm a taxpayer in St. Johnsbury and the state's taken over this role and I don't have to pay any more property taxes to do this, why would I keep doing it? Because the property taxes are, I'm guess I'm missing something here. I just, but it's creating 5 new positions troubles me.
6.5, Dick.
Well, the 5 in public safety, the 1.5 is just to collect the fees and operate the program, as I understand.
Where are the complaints coming from?
Renters.
That's caused this.
There's a lot of substandard housing. That's not in debate.
It's a huge issue, the quality of rental housing, and they have this has been an issue, and that is why I wish you had the professionals in here, Sarah Carpenter and Sean, to respond.
I know, Allison, would be nice if we could relitigate the testimony, but when we get a bill the day before crossover, we really are very compressed for what we have for time. I think the question we have really fundamentally is the bill as it's come out has got a registration requirement, a $35 fee. It would require setup. We have said we would only bring positions in when there are revenues sufficient to pay them. And then we can make a policy decision. Do we want to say anything would go? Bobby is saying, do we want to allocate it to fix up property that somebody isn't fixing up, but you only are going to get the money if you're willing to fix it up, and you have to cost share, I believe, in that program. So it's not.
There's a 20% match. In the CRF program, we had a 10% match, and in this, we now have a 20% match from the landowner.
So the question becomes one of, I guess Senator Sears is saying, gee, anything else you'd have to turn yourself inside out to get a position. This is coming very easy because we're creating a revenue stream to support it. The issue around the quality of housing stock in Vermont, we have old housing stock, there's no question, and there are abuses. A lot of towns are better. Smaller towns really have very little capacity. So we can, I'm just struggling here with how we want to proceed. We can go back and redebate the basic policy premises of the bill. We can simply say, all right, if we want to move this bill forward, then we can appropriate 400,000 one-time general fund, or federal, hopefully it could be federal, but it's probably going to be out of general fund, to the upfront work and to bring on the staff to do that upfront work. Nobody else comes online until there's revenue to support them, which would be the inspectors.
Well,
and that we would create a special fund for these fees to go into. We don't have to make a decision around if there's greater money coming in, although they were linking the two. That's why I was linking the two. But I'm just looking, it's 10 minutes to 3 on a Friday afternoon. And I just need to get a sense of what the committee wants to do relative to the spending here.
Okay. I just want to answer one of the questions Dick had raised, which is this is currently a town responsibility. Towns are not wanting particularly to continue it. Housing inspections and housing,
they're terrible. No one is
are
debating
and difficult, and yeah, they're wanting to get rid of this, and this is building on the work that the Division of Fire Safety already does. They are responsible for enforcing the fire code, and in I think it was 2019, the assessment by the Department of Health and the Division of Fire Safety found that over 60% of the items that the Division of Fire Safety can cover overlaps with the required healthcare code. So it made total sense for them to put.
Sorry, I will never again. My question wasn't, I was merely suggesting that we are creating positions when in an environment that is extremely difficult to create positions. That's troubling to me. The second thing that's troubling is we're taking over a municipal responsibility in the assumption that municipalities aren't doing a good job. And I will admit that some of them aren't. Some of them are, some of them aren't. It's like anything else. But every time we've taken over a municipal function, in my experience, we've had some problems. Schools would be one example. So I'm just not, so I don't want to, I mean, I'm not here to get into a big argument at 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon.
Yep.
But I'm troubled by some of what is happening in this bill. And so I will, if I, I'll just shut up and nod yes or no.
Don't do that. I just want.
I know. I know. I'm. It's more with the policy of adding positions when I've got state's attorneys screaming at me because they can't fill a position that's already created because the administration won't let them, and I can't put a fee on criminals because they can't.
Right, but separate issue though, Dick. Separate issue.
I understand it's a separate issue, but here we are creating jobs. Yeah, I mean, it's just, I don't know.
So just to bring it back, this is several decades in the making, this issue, and we keep trying to make some headway here. So there's got to be a middle way here. Standing up the program. I thought Jane had a great proposal. I think that's the next step forward, the $400,000 appropriation. And I think we move it along. This has been so many years of trying to make headway here. And I hear you, it is frustrating. We're all frustrated with the administration. No increase in fees, no increase in, we have positions that aren't filled, we know, but I do think it needs to go to the next phase. That's how I feel about this.
And the VLCT has been very supportive of this work. I mean,
well, I can understand why, because this is a really difficult. On the other
over
hand,
a job from them. I'm sure they're
but on the other hand, any of us have dealt with any of these housing issues know how difficult, and I can see why towns, because they feel they're not well equipped to enforce code issues. So I'm going to come back to the question at hand, and that is, do we want to appropriate the $400,000 to do the upfront work to create the registry and staff the 1.5 positions, or even if that will do it, and build the registry, whatever software is necessary in ACCD, with language that says staff, and we don't need to say they get all of them. We could say, up to, but they will only, be brought online or something as the revenues are sufficient to fund the positions. That's one approach. The second part was, if in fact the revenues are greater, would we say that would be a source to help repair and make Vermont has an awful lot of old aging housing stock. We know that in villages, as a funding source to make vacant units available. So it's a housing capacity component as well.
Right.
That is really how I am seeing the decisions before the committee. Senator Westman, you had a comment. Did I?
Well, it's just I don't understand the numbers all that well in this, and here's why I would say what the bill says is that if you file a landlord certificate with a tenant, that you, within 12 months you have to send that, the money in. And how you would get to only 40% of the rentals in doing that. We have very good registration and everyone does it electronically with the tax department. So we know all of those people that are filing renter's rebate forms now. So there is very little chance that it's only going to be 800,000 because a landlord's not going to get. So I can't understand those numbers. And in relationship to appropriating general fund money, I'd want to make sure that I was clearer on what I was doing before I did that. Because, and the other piece, the short-term rentals are going to do this because they already file rooms and meals taxes. So our tax department has a pretty good handle on all of the people and that are doing this.
But they're not sharing it. I mean, they aren't able to share that. And you're right, they have the best handle, but remember that a lot of that's aggregated, Richie. Airbnb doesn't do individual short-term.
It's not, it is certainly, that's only for your 6,000. For your 55,000 people,
I
that's
don't think
not
the tax
aggregate.
department can share that, Richie. They won't even share EITC for kids to get their hot lunch, for God's sake.
And they're only
then
collecting.
in this bill, it specifically says that if you file renter's rebate, you have to within 12 months pay the fee.
I know, but that tax department won't share the information on the renter rebate. I'm just saying there's no feedback loop back because it's a confidential transaction.
We could spend a month on this bill. So what I'll make a motion that we move it forward with your suggested numbers and process. Now get it out of the room.
Okay. All right. So I don't know whether we would have to put an amendment on. We're taking off the 3 million. We're authorizing the 400,000 to get the system set up. We're having a big debate. I think Senator Westman's thinking that in fact the revenues will be greater than the 40%. And then
which would be great.
And then, well, maybe we should not make any decision about saying we're going to put home repairs and a dedicated funding source when we have other housing needs. I don't know whether we're prepared to do that at this point. Maybe we should just leave that open for the time being.
But the special fund you would set up to receive the rental housing registry fee.
Yes.
Jane, I saw Phil's hand too. I don't know if he wanted to weigh in.
I basically support what Bobby and Jane and Becca earlier were saying. I was working on this in economic development 5 years ago. So, there is a need for it. I think, Jane, you've put forward a way to do it with minimal stress on the position piece for the initial interval. So I'm all for it.
Okay.
So you're going to second it.
I will second.
Okay. Alice, you have a comment.
Where are the 7.5 positions now and where will they be?
They don't exist. We would have to authorize them.
Six and a half.
And they're 6.5, 5 in fire safety and 1.5 at ACCD.
In the narrative that I read,
but we would not. We would have language that. And maybe we don't need language because you can't hire if you haven't got the money to pay them.
Yeah,
I don't know, Stephanie, what your thought is on that.
So even if you create the positions, they have to demonstrate that they do have the funding. What we need to make clear is that the funding for these positions is from that special fund.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, but the 400,000, I believe, will mean that they bring on at least one person at ACCD.
The 400 one time would mean that they could start probably recruiting
Right, exactly.
In
'cause
both
otherwise-
places, but just not all of them.
Right.
Yes, Alice.
Just to go back to the positions. In what I read in Dan's fiscal note, he speaks of the bill would authorize 5 new full-time classified position within the DFS to perform, I'm reading this off my phone, to perform rental housing inspections. The bill would authorize 2.5 full-time classified positions within the DHCT to administer and enforce the rental housing registry program.
That's a mistake. It's only 1.5.
1.5.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Dan?
Dan, yes.
The section 5 of the bill creates 2.5 positions. in the
Oh,
HC.
my understanding is it was 1.5.
Change it to 1.5.
All right.
That's what I was going by when I made the motion. Is
I'm
1.5.
going to go 1.5. And if that's
Yeah.
not right, this bill has still got to go to the House.
Yeah,
Maybe they can't come.
You can correct that in your amendment here, I believe.
Yeah. All right.
My understanding is it's 1.5.
Well, that's what it is as of this moment.
Yep.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. We need to get this drafted up. Do we need any more testimony from Senator Clarkson?
I'm
Okay.
just confirming this here.
Madam Chair, this is David Hall. Can I please ask you 2 questions?
Certainly.
So do you, in your amendment, you're going to keep the section of the bill that codifies the VHIP program?
I don't know. I'm not sure I am. I think I may just take that offline for now. Until,
Okay.
I'm loath at this point to to codify a program that we don't have an ongoing funding stream, and we haven't agreed on what that funding stream should be. So I'm going to keep it right now as it currently is, and that we'll, if we have money and we want to appropriate it for that purpose, we can just do it through the regular appropriation process without creating officially a program in statute.
Okay.
And
So I think that answers my second question, which is whether you wanted to allocate any excess registration fees to.
No, I don't want to get into that policy of that fiscal decision right now, because we need to look at if there are surplus revenues within the larger housing context.
Which we will be able to look at this time, hopefully next year. It is, I just want to confirm, it's only 1.5 positions at DHCD.
Well, that's good, because that's what I've just decided.
Yeah.
And that's Bobby's motion. Okay. Further discussion. All right, so do you want to wait until we get the motion back from David?
it all depends.
Yes.
I don't need to wait.
I don't either.
All right, do you want to vote on it? And so we can take
Move
action on the
forward.
bill? Okay. All right, so we are going to move, we have to move it favorably because we're amending it as 79 favorably as amended. We have a motion by Senator Starr, seconded by Senator Baruth. And I'm going to ask the clerk at this point to call the roll.
Madam Chair.
What? I'm sorry.
I really do feel uncomfortable voting on this.
That's okay. Stand up and you'll feel better.
There's every single one of us is a landlord.
Yeah.
I'm a landlord.
I don't think I am.
I am
You think,
I'm
you
not.
think I'm happy?
not thinking of it in terms of being a landlord. I'm thinking of it in terms of, you know, what's going on in the towns, what this will look like. We already have people doing it. And as everybody has said, some towns are doing it well, some aren't. But to create a whole big program with a whole bunch of new employees and spend a lot of money and also cause every landowner or every homeowner that's doing rentals, and I don't need that money for that, or I don't care if I had to spend it. So that isn't it. But for many people, you know, it's going to be a lot of stuff going on that wasn't going on before.
I'm gonna
That's-
vote.
I'm going to reserve my vote on the floor, but I want to get the bill out of committee so we can get on to some other issues and let the whole Senate decide on.
And
Whether it-
I'm happy to chat with you about it this weekend. There's actually a huge need demonstrated.
I don't think that's the issue, Allison. It has to do with local functions and the movement. It has to do with positions. It has to do with a variety of factors. So we have to get enough votes to move this as amended. We have, and people are saying how they vote to get this bill out doesn't obligate them to vote that way on the floor.
Right.
Okay,
Okay.
let's do it.
Okay.
right.
And for the record, before the vote, your clerk is not a landlord. I own nothing. So
You own,
Phones.
Senator Ballant,
yes.
Senator Baruth, yes. Senator Nitka,
Stain.
how do I, did you say abstain?
Yes.
Alice?
Can
we
we as the
abstain?
committee?
I don't
didn't-
think so.
I didn't think we could.
No, it's not in the Senate rules. You may
Then I'll
not.
say something else. I might have a conflict of interest this summer.
Oh, Rule 57 or something.
But I
Well-
think that only comes into play on the floor.
I think if you, I think.
You could walk out of the room and
I think rules on the floor apply in here.
Or actually, you don't even have to get up. You could just turn off your camera
Yeah,
All right.
we'll say goodbye.
because you can
All
only
right, why
vote
don't
if
we
you're
keep
on
going,
camera.
please?
Go.
Senator Nitka, I didn't,
I'm citing the rule that gives you a conflict of interest.
okay, so someone will explain to me later how to.
Rule
record that.
72, I think, or something.
Yeah.
Maybe that just goes under the third category. Okay, Senator Sears,
I have no conflicts.
how do you
Will you vote
vote, Senator?
how are you
Reluctant,
voting?
yes. It's a reluctant yes.
Okay.
Noted,
So
noted.
noted. Senator Starr,
Yes.
Senator Westman,
I definitely have a conflict.
You definitely do.
I
so-
definitely do.
Okay,
Okay.
Senator Kitchell,
Well, I'm voting yes, and I own rental property. But I think it's just like Bobby can vote on anything that has to do with ag or trucking because he's a farmer.
but
Yeah,
isn't, I thought that the determining factor was whether you were going to be treated individually rather than as part of a class.
That's
Right.
right.
So I don't, it's hard to see how somebody would be individually privileged by this bill.
I think if
or-
we want to make a point of this, then you would need to ask the Senate Secretary.
Yes, believe me, I'm gonna,
And
soon as we
so
have a break.
I think that rather, you have a 5-0-2 vote, basically.
Okay,
But I do think that, I don't know whether it's permissible or not. And so
Yeah,
I think
I
I
will
would
be-
ask the.
I'll be
Senate
speaking with the Senate Secretary this weekend to get
So-
really clear on that.
So if you want to move the bill out, you can vote in the negative. There'll be 5 votes to move it and 2 no votes.
Well, but then they'd be voting no because they own rental property.
Right?
I
Well,
tell you something,
how-
the last time this came up on the floor, I had myself exempt, under the special rule. And then there was, well, you don't have any, I didn't vote in the end. Even though they said, we went through this whole harangue about, are you more privileged because of voting? Could you be more privileged because of voting on this, et cetera? In fact, we all could, if that's really what we look at, and it's not as broad as if you own a farm, and it's not that broad, but if you were.
Well, I remember when we voted on CVPS and the sale, we had some vote. And I asked, I own stock in CVPS. And I would be advantaged by the sale. And I was told that was not grounds
Not
to
great.
abstain.
That's right.
because everybody else was
Yeah.
getting used
Yeah.
just like you
Yeah.
were, or you were like.
So look, it's now after not 3 o'clock.
All right, I'll vote no.
All right, vote
Okay.
no.
Becca has a long trip to Brattleboro.
It's a wise thing to do, but
Senator Sears, any alteration in your vote?
No,
Okay.
I'm voting with the committee.
Oh, no, it was Richie was the other
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, he was no.
abstention.
he wasn't no.
He
I
was,
voted
he was,
yes.
no, he
All right,
abstained.
so
I
let me ask, let's do a contingent vote. If you do not have a conflict of interest, and that's
If I don't
ruled,
have a conflict of interest, I would vote no. But, 2 weeks salary in the legislature will not pay my fee.
Okay.
So I feel I have a conflict.
Yeah, personal gain.
okay, so Becca, will you get a ruling? And
Yes.
if, then we will.
Are we taking up S-124 next?
I think that's the next thing.
Okay, so you guys get started. I'm actually gonna go talk to Bloomer right now,
Okay,
Yep.
Okay,
okay?
that would be great. Thank you very much.
so we'll just
one,
hold the vote open at
yes,
6, 5,
5-0,
1.
5-0-2.
Well,
Or five, did Alice vote no?
Alice voted no.
Okay, so it's 5-1.
I'm abstaining until we get the ruling.
Okay,
Okay, so right
So-
now it's 5 and 2 on hold pending clarification on
Okay.
conflict.
5 yeses, so it'll pass no matter what.
Yeses and everything.
Yeah,
Okay.
out
All right.
of here.
All right,
Thank you.
now,
Thank you very much. We clearly have, thank you.
all right.
I'm going to go
Mhm.
back to GovOps and see if they're still meeting.
All right, thank
I
you.
hope you are,
Um,
Allison.
Our next bill is, if you could help me, Chrissy.
Next bill is S-124, an act relating to miscellaneous utility subjects. And we have Senator McCormick in the room.
Okay, and we have Ellen. Is Ellen part of?
Yes, Ellen is joining
Okay.
us as well.
Okay,
Park there waiting.
all right. All right, Senator McCormick and Ellen, there you are. You keep flipping around on my screen. This bill is referred to us because it has an impact on spending. And so that's what the question is there, you had an email, you weren't sure why we got it.
So yeah, I was a little bit confused. So there's no appropriation in S-124. It affects the penalty amounts for violations of Title 30.
Could you tell us a bit more the penalty of Title 30? Give us a little background.
Sure. Did you want to hear from Senator McCormick, or did you want me to just dive right into that?
Our focus is really going to be on spending. I have to say that I think after this week, this committee is pretty well exhausted. So I think it could, it's a long bill?
No,
No, okay.
Somebody remind me what the bill is.
All right, so give us just a very quick summary of what the bill does, and then Ellen can explain why there might have been a potential where it came in, but it doesn't sound like there's a big appropriation involved here, which is good news to us.
So if anything, it should advantage the revenues of the state. It raises some penalties. So
Okay.
if it had an effect at all, it would be positive. This is a bill pertaining to the Public Utilities Commission, and it is a housekeeping bill. Having watched my poor district mate try to shepherd a complex and large bill, I know it's poison, but I'm going to say it anyway. This is a simple little bill. It is housekeeping, and what it mainly does, it addresses some anomalies. It does some updating, and it makes Public Utilities Commission law consistent with other parts of the law. So shall I go section by section, or do you want to jump right to the section dealing with fines?
Now, for a housekeeping bill, we're going to operate on Cosmic Trust because that's really policy, and we're going to assume that the policy committee has reviewed those parts. So we're going to just look at the section that we think connects to us.
Okay, well-
Which seems a bit tangential, but there must be something there. Was there something in the underlying bill, Ellen, that had any spending? No, because sometimes that's what triggers it, is even though it gets taken out if it's in the underlying bill, but it wasn't that. Okay. All right. Well, could you just help us then explain what you think is the connection?
Are you asking me or?
No, Ellen.
Okay.
So the penalties for a violation of Title 30, one of the rules. So the fees haven't been raised in quite a long time. So they're bringing them in line with what the violations are for Title 10. So if there's an enforcement action. So currently, if there's a violation of either Chapter 3 or Chapter 5, it's raising the penalty from $10,000 up to $10,000 to up to $42,000. It's also raising it from $40,000 up to $85,000, up to $42,000 per day, up from $10,000. And these do match what's in Title 10, so it's similar to that. Finally,
could you tell us what's in Title 10, what that relates to?
Oh, so Title 10 is the Conservation and Development Statute. That's where all of our environmental laws are, including Act 250. And so what we're talking about in Title 30, we're talking about primarily the laws governing utilities and including Section 248. So electric generation, as well as the telecommunications regulations. So largely related to permitting of these facilities, but also the PUC has a lot of jurisdiction over a utility. And one of the penalties being raised in here is if the Public Utility Commission makes a request of a utility to turn over financial information or any reports, there is a penalty if the utility refuses to comply with that request. So we're not adding any new types of violations, we're just increasing the penalties. So the only thing I think may have triggered your jurisdiction is there is one sentence at the very end of Section 4 that states that the commission has authority to direct some of the fines levied to fund ratepayer projects that benefit a ratepayer, such as infrastructure upgrades. So instead of depositing the penalties into the general fund, they can be used to make infrastructure updates to benefit ratepayers.
That's bad.
So
can I ask a question?
Okay. Bobby's I heard him say that's bad, and then Alice has got a question. So you have a.
Yes, does it
Well,
apply?
it would be like giving the state police speeding ticket money. You know, if they catch you speeding, you know, the fine goes to the courts and it goes to the general fund. Well, if we gave them the speeding ticket money, what do you think they would be doing every day? They'd be out
Let me
there.
ask, is there a comparable, is this comparable to some other, you're saying you're trying to align them with something else. Is that provision around, does that exist with the other fines that you were referencing in Title 30?
It's a little bit different because this would be benefiting the public, but comparably in Title 10, if there's a settlement agreement between the regulator and the entity that's made a violation, there may be a settlement that requires the violator to do something that restore, like if there's a spill, an environmental spill, they may direct the entity to actually clean up that spill and use some of that fine that they've just been charged. So there are some similarities, but this is very specific because we're talking about electric utilities. And so if they're directed to make update to the grid or their facilities, it is to the benefit of Vermonters and their ratepayers.
Okay, and this is a bill that's coming out of Finance?
Senate Natural.
Okay, Alice?
Are the municipal utilities included in this?
Yes.
Yes. And just remind me of the fine. It's going from 10,000 to 40,000 or 42,000 on one section there.
Yes. So if there is a violation that does not cause harm to the public, it's being raised from $10,000 to $42,500.
This didn't have to go to any other committee when you're dealing with those kinds of fines?
It didn't get to send to any other committee.
One option we have is to move it without recommendation.
Yeah, this is pretty troublesome, I think.
Why do they feel the need for the jump to be so much? Because it hasn't been done in 10 years, or is there actually?
Yeah.
That's the only reason?
It's an update, if I may. Madam Chair, may I answer?
Yes, you may.
Yeah, it's an update. It brings this into line with other fines, comparable fines. It has been many years since these have been updated.
Senator Baruth, you have a question?
I would agree with the idea that we should move it. I would be willing to vote for it, but moving it without a recommendation makes sense. We don't have any skin in the game in terms of money. So unless we want to debate the policy with the Committee of Jurisdiction, I think we should just let it go to the floor.
Okay. So we have a motion to move the bill without recommendation.
Madam President?
Yes.
In the interest of full disclosure, and I hope I'm not shooting myself in the foot here, but I should mention that section 5, I believe it is, raises the income level for eligibility for fuel assistance, for state programs aiding with fuel. Ellen, you want to comment on that? Does that have implications for?
Yes, it does. That
the
influences
state
the
money?
spending.
Yeah. So we should acknowledge that.
It doesn't increase it. It just means more people are eligible
More
for the
people,
same
yeah.
pot of money.
So, but that section is very specific to currently there's only one program. It's run by Green Mountain Power. So it's specific to a program run by the utility.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's
'cause
not.
they all have energy for low income households that are funded. All right. Senator Bruce.
I thought we should at least mention that.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate. Thank you.
I do as well. I would be willing to move the bill without recommendation.
Okay. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Second. Okay. Further discussion? Okay. Then why don't we call the roll on the motion to move the bill without recommendation?
Senator Ballant.
Yes.
Senator Baruth, yes. Senator Nitka.
Yes.
Senator Sears.
Sure.
Senator Starr.
Yes.
Senator Westman.
Yes.
Senator Kitchell.
Yes.
I was going to say aye because I thought that was the new way to do it.
Oh,
You know,
The old
how
way.
about,
the
okay.
old way.
And who would be the reporter for public service PUC?
I don't think you need a reporter.
Well, doesn't somebody have to get up and say no recommend?
Well, I think it's just, we don't have a recommendation, so what are we reporting?
Oh, all right. I don't know. I didn't know if somebody had to report no recommendation.
I think they will look to the chair of the committee to understand why.
All right.
Someone has
if I need to be a reporter.
Somebody has to take this to the clerk's office.
Well, I think since Richie owns utilities.
Don't own you.
Or is I, well, I noticed I noticed you're on the board of a major utility.
I'm on the board of.
All right. Senator Starr is public service PUC. Senator Starr.
Excellent choice.
Are you reluctant to do it?
Yeah, I think Richie should do it.
No, I'll do it as long as you don't reframe how I report on it.
Well, it shouldn't be too hard. The committee has no recommendation.
Well, I might have to give my own personal feelings why I voted not. No, I'd be glad to do it.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay. Thank you very much, Senator McCormick. Do we have other bills?
Committee, thank you all.
Thank you, Ellen.
Ellen,
Thank you.
thank you.
So
I miss you folks.
You
I
too,
know
Dick.
I wanted to go back to S100 and we also
Good to
have
see you, Dick.
and we also
Take
have
care,
the
Dick.
amendment on S79.
Chrissy's trying to get in there too.
Okay.
Yes, and we also need to close out S48, I believe, because we didn't have Senator Ballin vote on a couple that have been holding on. So, the first one, S79, we're still holding on, and then the other, I believe it was S48.
And probably, was I here for S13?
Yes. Yep.
Okay,
Sure.
great. So S48, absolutely, yes.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, Ellen has got her hand up.
I'm sorry, did you do S101 yet?
No, that was next time.
Okay, okay.
Not yet, not yet.
Oh, we have another bill?
Yeah.
One more, this is gonna be lickety split. But I have a ruling for Bloomer. And I just have to say, I was right. You may not abstain. You may not abstain.
I didn't think so.
He said, you can walk if you want to. You can turn out your little screeny. You can pretend you're not there, but you may not abstain.
So how about if you were on the floor, could you?
Well, he said, even then, I told him the situation. He said, you don't benefit directly. He gave an example of something Vince Saluzzi did once, which, you know, it's up to you whether you want that as an example. Just leave it at that. But he said in this, I explained the situation. He said, there really isn't grounds for not voting. So there you have it.
So should we finish out that vote then, just so I'm sure? So we had 5 yeses, and then Senator Nitka
and Rich
Westman, and
well, I'm
right to abstain.
Yes.
You have to vote
I'm wondering,
or
in
turn
light
off your
of-
screen.
Calling on me, I'm sorry.
I am calling on you for the vote.
I'm gonna vote no then.
Okay, and Senator Westman.
No.
Okay.
And I'd like to just say on the record, the reason is, and so you to put in the little booklet, well, Chrissy's recording it, that I'm voting no because even though that Senator Bloomer excuses me, I still feel there's a conflict of interest.
Understood.
And I'm absolutely the same.
Okay.
Same thing. It should be written in the vote log, please.
Well, as long as you're explaining your votes, maybe us yes people ought to explain ours.
Maybe you should.
Just remember, you can say all of these things on the floor as well. We're just moving it along.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, man.
I don't, right. The record will certainly be the action on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, these records are saved too.
I know. I understand that, but
Chrissy has a question.
Oh, Chrissy has a
yes,
question.
Chrissy.
Reporter for S79, reporter.
79.
That's ACCD.
I'll do
and-
it. I'll do it.
All right. Thank you, Becca.
You're welcome.
All right. Now we have one other bill,
Yep. I'm all ready for you.
and then I wanted to see if we could wrap up S100. I've got a suggestion about how we might proceed on that.
Okay.
So the next bill up is
S101.
S101.
So promoting housing choices and opportunities in smart growth areas. And I imagine that if your inbox is like my inbox, you've received a bunch of emails on this related to sections 10 and 11 of the bill. The Committee on Senate Natural Resources has been working on an amendment that deals with those two provisions, but those two provisions don't, I think, impact the decision here in appropriations. So I'll give you the overview and tell you how it impacts the money angle, and then Ellen can talk about more of the specifics. So this bill, it updates the municipal and regional planning funds to allow grants to municipalities to assist them in modernizing their bylaws. And it extends the downtown and village tax credit program to neighborhood development areas. It also trains some developers to navigate the permitting process, and it removes a requirement, and this is the part that has been controversial. It removes a requirement for state water and wastewater permits where the municipality has already issued a permit. There was some duplication there. slowed the process, also added expense. Okay, so you may recognize this. It's a slimmed down version of a bill that we had worked on last year, which was S237, dealing with these same issues. It was a much larger bill. I think it was around 50 pages. This is very narrow. It's about 15 pages. And it responds to a concern that the Committee on Economic Development heard related to trying to encourage more building in downtown areas. Okay, it doesn't contain any mandates, which is different from the previous bill. It's all incentive based. So incentive based approach to bylaw modernization. And so the reason why I am here to talk about it for the committee, not only because I'm on appropriations, but because my town, Brattleboro, did something similarly to this and was very successful. So we all know that we've had a housing crunch. A lot of the bylaws in communities are decades old in their drafting, and we really want to bring in more ideas around smart growth, around creating more affordable housing, adapting housing to climate change, creating more welcoming communities, more pedestrian friendly communities. And so to overcome the challenge of how difficult it was to get this building in these downtown village areas, DHCD, along with BHCB, ARP Vermont Realtors, a lot of people got together and they offered guidance and training for towns to be able to make some small changes to the bylaws. So we did some zoning modernization in Brattleboro, and within a very short amount of time, we were able to bring on 22 new units just in Brattleboro, which for a town that size is pretty remarkable. So the bill is designed to create a clear, viable path for smaller communities to follow in making these changes to the bylaws, which will enable more development in these concentrated areas. So simply put, on the money, it provides $500,000 in grants to help cities and towns hire the expertise they need to modernize their bylaws.
What's the source of funds?
Yep, it is. Got it tucked in here. And Ellen, you might have that off the top of your head.
It's general funds.
Yeah, I thought it was general, but I didn't want to misspeak. So that's 500 in general funds, another 100,000 for training and assistance. Also, if not used, will be returned appropriated to DHCD, that 100,000 that I just talked about for training and permitting assistance to help more Vermont homeowners and builders use these tax credits, and then increases the tax credit program to expand to neighborhood areas. And that is a $1.75 million increase to those existing tax credits.
So my question is, does a tax credit mean that we have to take revenue off the top, Stephanie?
Yes, we would score it that way.
Okay. So by increasing the tax credits, we are de facto spending 1.75 million here because that revenue is no longer available to flow to the general fund.
Yep.
We're gonna have all the money spent before we get to my kids' breakfast and lunch. They're gonna have to go hungry.
Well, this one's giving them a home, so.
Yeah, they'd have a roof over the heat.
So let me ask, did finance, this came out of finance, did finance propose any other revenue stream to make up the 1.75 million? Otherwise, we have to reduce spending.
Not that I know of.
Okay.
And you can't raise the money first and then start the program, or what?
No, it's a tax credit. So it means that it reduces the revenues available to the That's what it is. Because it's a tax credit, then it reduces revenues. And therefore, it means that we have to basically treat it as an expenditure. It's a tax expenditure.
Base expenditure.
And committee, that's a lot of money for us to do on a Friday afternoon. That's going to put ahead of all the other things competing with base. This is base. This is not one time. This is base. This is lost revenue.
I thought we would take the money out. In this case, we can't take the money out.
So it is time specific though, Jane. So I understand. So section 3, all the money is not spent by 2023 revert back to the general fund.
That's for the $600,000 of appropriations.
Yeah, that has nothing to, the tax credit is much longer than that.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Okay.
I don't see how we can, with all the other competing things with base costs to reduce revenue.
Quickly, what's it used for? Can you say it real quick?
Well, a tax credit is designed to get people to make investments in downtown in these areas, and they get a write-off on their taxes, so they pay less in.
I thought we already did stuff like that.
They're
not in these
increasing it.
particular areas. These are neighborhood development areas, so it's specifically designed to create more housing.
Well, there isn't any way we can deal with this in the 22 budget.
I'm thinking maybe this is another area where we would fund with those registration. If we had, this is an example of another housing related opportunity. So maybe we don't take action on, I don't know, we look at it as part of those various ways that we can support housing.
Right. And what about also in the federal package that's coming? Is there any wiggle room in there?
Well, a tax credit's ongoing impact on revenue. I don't know. You're talking about the 600,000 for the advance?
Yeah.
What is that again? It's to assist the towns.
Yep. Because many of them don't have the expertise to update, to modernize the.
Let me ask, this wouldn't be we don't know this. Would this be a permissible expenditure? The towns are going to be getting several hundred millions of dollars. And I'm just wondering whether this is something Stephanie might be, I don't know.
We don't know.
Too early to
part of why
say.
you put the technical assistance in to help them
What
figure out
about
what they can spend it on.
What
about a cost sharing deal where we do part, the community takes a little hit on some of it? It's going to be to their advantage, the communities.
This could move without the money.
That's what I'm thinking. I think we move it without the money.
If we want to look at some kind of cost sharing, see if there's federal money that we can move around. I think we all are seeing the advantage of development in our villages, and
I just want you to know I'm on the minority in this in natural resources, and natural resources is having a whole difficult time with this, because most of your municipal sewer plants can't handle the capacity that they have now, and so a majority of that committee, of my morning committee, is it finds this really difficult to go ahead with. I'm just reporting that. I'm just reporting that.
Okay, so what we could do, and that's going to be then the debate on the other part. I'm going to propose that we take out the 500 and the 100. We'll put it on the list. And the tax credit,
Pick one.
what?
I'm sorry.
He's playing the lottery.
Oh, and I'm gonna have to do the same with the tax credit.
Okay. No, that makes sense.
I realize, but in essence, it's spending money on base money.
Yep.
And people need to understand a tax expenditure is no different on the bottom line than if we do a direct appropriation.
And we just, it's hard for us to make those decisions when we don't know what we're going to be able to do with the municipal money that's coming from the federal government. I think it makes, we need more information.
Yeah, I mean, if a little town like Danville could get between 200,000 and $500,000, one might think that we're dealing with some resources here available to towns if they can use it for this purpose.
Yep.
Okay, I realize that's kind of a disappointment, but it still allows
but it
the
keeps
other part.
Exactly. It's moved the other parts that we'll either figure out the money or we won't, but let's keep the ideas alive. This is something that's important to so many regions of our state that are short on housing. So let's keep the conversation going.
All right, then we can, at some point, we can, if in fact that rental registry generates more income, one of the decisions you have, do you want to use it for a tax credit, or do you want to use it to help rehab apartments to bring them online?
Give them a choice.
Right. I mean, we're going to have to, there are a whole host of things that you can do to improve housing. So that with the money. All right. Ellen, can you do that amendment for us, please?
Sure. Can I just ask a clarification? Do you want to remove all of the language related to the tax credit, or just the increase of the cap? Because it does two things. It increases the amount and it expands it to the neighborhood development areas.
I don't really care as long as we keep it the expenditure at the current level. I don't know, Becca, do you have a policy whether we expand it? In other words, we're keeping the amount of money constant. It just makes more areas eligible. Okay. Committee, do you have an opinion? Okay.
Whatever makes it work, and we
All right.
move it forward.
We'll let the committee, the expansion, and if more money can come in at some point, then fine. And we'll just leave that part there. So it would make more areas eligible, but the pot of money doesn't increase. Okay. So I need a motion to move the bill as amended. Senator Starr?
Yeah.
Senator Nitka seconded.
Yep.
Okay. A further discussion? Okay. The clerk then will call the roll.
Senator Ballin,
Yes.
Senator Baruth, yes. Senator Nitka,
Yes.
Senator Sears,
Yes.
Senator Starr,
Yes.
Senator Westman,
Yes.
and Senator Kitchell.
Yes. Do you want to report that too, Becca, or do you want to have someone else?
No, I'm happy to.
Okay. All right. So the last, do we have any other bills, Chrissy?
You have gone through our agenda for today.
Okay. I want to go back to S100. And I'm going to throw out a possibility here. This is a bill. Obviously, there's tremendous advocacy behind it. The bill that we got that came from Ag, and it was not altered at all by education, was that we would have universal meals come in over a 5-year period of time, and that it would be an education, it would be an expense, an education related expense. There are other provisions that are designed to support Vermont Ag and local foods. So what I would suggest we do, because the whole policy around universal meals is it's come through two committees with unanimous votes, would be to move the sections that create the Universal Meals Program. And knowing that there'll be federal money coming into schools, and there's been money underwriting, and some schools are already eligible under the USDA rules anyway, to move that policy forward, and that we would take the other related appropriations that would be to support local foods or farm to school. We would not, one has a base appropriation already, keep that at the current level, and take out any new appropriations or increased appropriations at this point. That way, the money for the ancillary pieces to the bill, we will defer to the big bill, but we will let the policy around universal meals move forward in time for crossover and consideration by the House.
Sounds good to me.
I think that with the way we've been doing all of our other bills, retaining, keeping the money out, I think that's a very good suggestion.
All right. That's why I get paid to stay up at night.
Yeah, the big
bucks.
Becca
If
knows
we
I've been doing a lot of thinking about moving things around. So assuming that this might be viewed as something that the committee would feel is a positive step forward, honors the work of their policy committees, that we would have an amendment that would strike those appropriations that I just referenced, and then move the bill as amended. And I think,
I'll move that.
Okay, Stephanie had, I think, asked Jim to have an amendment to do just that ready, in anticipation that this might be viewed as an acceptable way of moving forward.
Okay.
He does have it ready, and it's basically a strike all bill from the Senate Appropriations, the way it's drafted right now. Do you want to, Jim? Chrissy, do you want to share with Jim and have Jim hit the draft up? Or?
Do we have to do a strike all?
You're muted, Jim.
Well, it'd be helpful to see the bill to show you what's being taken out, because there's a lot of language being deleted from this bill around. So it'd be helpful to go through it, and then we can decide. So let me pull up.
What do you need? Okay.
So my understanding, talking to Stephanie, is we're basically taking out the grant amounts, taking out the language around trying to buy locally produced foods.
That's right.
So there's a lot of changes here to go through. So let me just walk through them with you. So for the record, sorry, Jim DeMarie, let's consult walking through draft 1.1 of your amendment, draft amendment to S100. First of all, the title would change because we're dealing with Meals for All as opposed to the part about locally produced at this stage, at least.
Yeah. Okay.
And then going down through here, I've kept the language in that you would strike out so you can see it. But then, of course, I'll have to go back and actually strike this language out on the next draft, which I can do right away for you if you like. But so we're just striking out the section here, which is the award of grants for locally produced foods that will come out. And then we go up to,
because there's a lot
this
in
language
here.
here.
Okay.
So before I touch on the section here, we'll be taking out this whole section on locally produced foods. So this goes for pages and pages and pages. But part of that section was just moving language from an earlier section into that next section that we're striking. So I'm reinserting that language in the earlier section that's already in law. And
Okay.
just making a few updates here to reflect what we would have been doing here. We have made a few changes, like changing the goal from 22 to 23. So I made those changes above. All of this comes out.
Okay.
And then we go up to getting there.
Would we move it all the way to 23 school year, Jane, or
Well, I think anything that is contingent on additional funding or the appropriation we'll take out for now, and then we'll have to figure what we put back in when we decide what we can fund.
Yeah.
So 6 keeps in the 5-year transition language, giving 5 years to move to universal meals, but we're taking out the appropriation. So there's an appropriation here. There's an appropriation. Hold on. Okay. Then we go to the new position at the agency would be a 2-year limit.
Oh yeah, I forgot. That was one of my other brainstorms last night. And that is, we're setting up, I viewed it as almost like capital construction. We're building a system here. And that we know that the Agency of Education indicated that they had a position that they could move if their rules around, I believe, homeschooling could be modified. That would take some time. So what I'm proposing here is a 2-year limited service position that would do this upfront design work, kind of like building the building. And then that would give time for the Agency of Education to make its case to free up that position that the secretary talked about that could be transferred over, which is already part of their base budget to support this work.
Yep. That would work.
The only potential, Madam Chair, the only potential hitch in that I can see is house ed, because the homeschooling community will go along with it. The agency's going along with it, and Senate Ed is going along with it. So it should be greased all the way to the House Ed Committee. I don't know what their position on it might be, but.
Well, some of this is really setting up the system.
Yep. No, I mean on the change in homeschooling.
Oh, yeah. All right.
Allow
I'm just saying, assuming that they do, but this takes care of giving them an additional resource during this period of time that they're constructing, as I say, the building of this program. And so that was what I was thinking is it seems like this is some of this work is very much upfront. But I agree. And then the other body will have to decide what they want to do with this. Because, it's with that thinking and that testimony in mind. So you're right, Senator Bruce, but there may be other changes in the bill as well. Okay, this is the locally produced food.
So before we leave this section, I put in 200,000 for 2 years worth of compensation for this position coming from the SR3 funds. I didn't know whether you wanted to cover 2 years of it or just 1 year of it. So I put that in brackets.
Okay.
It should probably be a 1 year in FY22, and then they would follow through in 23 in their budget proposal, I imagine.
Okay.
That might shift it away from using ESSER funds and using state funds.
No,
you would appropriate in I'm assuming this is an FY22 appropriation effective July 1st.
Yes.
So you would, from the American Rescue Plan in state fiscal year 2022, $100,000. And then when the budget comes up from AOE next year, you would expect them to build that in for the second year in their
because they're going to have
line.
ESSER funds for another year. So we'll just keep that on our tally list.
Okay.
So,
Yep. I'll change that. I'll specify fiscal year 22, year 2, which I missed.
Yeah.
22 and 100,000.
Correct. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then we take out the session law around locally produced foods. So this is all gone. Appropriations are gone now as well. All these appropriations are gone, and that section 10 is gone. So if you want to vote this out today, I would need to go just redraft this and then get this through editing, which wouldn't take more than probably maybe 45 minutes at most.
Well, we could,
We've seen it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
and-
pretty simple changes, really.
So,
yes,
so will
Senator
that be
Westman?
draft, will that be draft 1.2?
We draft 2.1.
I move draft 2.1.
As amended.
Well,
If I
2.1
move,
is the amendment.
I'll second that.
No, I guess you rewrote you did a strike all. That's what you did, Jim?
I did. Yep.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
So I guess we are moving a version 2.1. It makes it clear that this is an educational expense out into the future. Right?
Mhm.
yep,
Okay. So I have a motion by Senator Westman to move the bill as amended, which is essentially moving forward with the universal meal provisions and then taking out the sections that relate to specific appropriations to support local food and that are there in a variety of places. So a second was Senator Sears, I believe. Further discussion. Okay. Then we can call the roll and then education. Oh my goodness, Becca, you're not going to want to do this one again. You're getting really hit.
I can do it if.
You want to do it, Philip? Okay.
Sure.
Spread the joy here.
But this is a good bill. Everybody will love you for this one.
They
Yeah.
already love him. What do you mean?
Yeah.
Well, a vocal minority in the state.
Yeah, I got a few emails from
All right. So, Mr. Clerk.
Senator Ballant,
Yes.
Senator Baruth, yes. Senator Nitka,
Yes,
Senator Sears,
yes.
Senator Starr,
Yes.
Senator Westman,
yes.
and Senator Kitchell.
Yes.
Okay, unanimous.
So, Philip, I'm gonna then, once Jim gets the final draft and you can check with Stephanie, we can get that up to the secretary's office.
Yeah, I just reply all when I get
Okay.
it from Chrissy.
All right. So committee, I think then now we're done.
Yes.
Chrissy.
Senator Starr, you have a couple of emails in your inbox to hit reply all for the bills you're reporting on. If you could do that, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, and we're both of them 7-0 or.
You can see in the email, we'll have it all.
You've already got it lined up. Okay, thanks.
It's all in there for you. And then we're still waiting for 3 of the amendments to get returned to me before I can send it to the Senate Secretary's office.
There's
So
one from David Hall.
I have not received that. If I could get that.
It just went to Stephanie and me. It was on 79.
She's reviewing it. We're good. Yes, so we're good there.
Okay.
But anyway, those will be coming to you all shortly. So keep an eye on
Yeah,
your email, please.
The one from David is ready to go. I'm sorry, I thought I'd sent you the note.
Oh, okay. So that 79 is Becca. Was that Becca?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right. And you're ready to go then.
Have a good weekend. Bye.
So just a minute here. So we are done all the scheduled work. So I'm going to adjourn the committee for this week.